We will we'll wait just a little bit, let everybody join, give people some time to jump in. Um, Welcome to how to unlock game-changing sales insights from every customer conversation with Balto and Ciro. So, going to give it a few minutes here, not too long. Just let some more people kind of jump in. But while we're waiting, if you want to throw in the chat, where you're joining from, what part of the world you're joining from, and then if there's anything you're interested in learning, right? What brought you to this webinar? What has you interested? What should we touch on that you care most about? If you want to throw that in the chat, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a few seconds with some introductions. All right, Don. Don is in St. Louis, just like me. That's awesome. Thanks for joining, Don. Well, all right, let's jump in. We'll do some introductions here to start. Just let everybody know, who you see on your screen, and then we'll jump into some topics. So, start out. My name is Rob Westervelt. I am the Vice President of Customer Success here at Balto. I am in St. Louis, Missouri. Lived here my whole life, never left, and excited to be here with everybody. Next, we can go over to Martin, and then maybe Eric, and then Mike.
Thanks. Yep. Hey guys, Martin here, head of sales and marketing at Ciro. We're a platform that basically records in-person sales conversations and then uses AI to help power coaching workflows, peer-to-peer learning workflows, and then also cross-sell rehash. So excited to dig in today with the team.
Good morning, everybody. Eric Anthony with Great Day Improvements, Director of Enterprise Call Centers, calling in from good old Cleveland, Ohio, and looking forward to the webinar today.
Hi, everyone. Mike Moore, Division President at Great Day Improvements. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina right now. And our company is a direct-to-consumer home improvement company. We have 12 individual brands under the Great Day umbrella. I specifically manage the patio enclosures, hardshoring contracting services, and Stanek window brands.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to have you all. Thank you for jumping on and doing this with us. And for everybody that joined, as we're having the conversation, if you've got questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat or the Q&A section. Maybe we'll try to get through them throughout the conversation, and if not, we'll maybe set aside some time at the end to get to them. So if you have questions, throw them in there, and we'll get to them. But starting out for Eric and Mike, when did you guys first start using AI in your company? How long ago did you guys dive into this AI world in home improvement?
Sure. Mike, you want to go first, or?
Yeah, I think we were a little earlier than the call center was. We got introduced to Ciro last year, right around the same time, in January, and came back from a conference, and after a lot of conversation, decided to kind of jump in.
That's awesome.
In the call center world, we're not that far off of our timing with Mike. We did a big overhaul of our call center software, just some outbound campaigns and whatnot. And part of that overhaul was to bring in the Balto add-on, if you will, to some of those changes. So we've been live with Balto. Don't hold me to this exactly, but May or June of this past year, somewhere in that time frame.
Yeah. Mike, what was it that you guys were looking for when you guys came across Ciro? Like, what was it that you were like, we really need something to help us with this?
Well, I think, in the world in home improvement where it's, direct to consumer, you're in home doing in-home presentations, you're running lots of meetings. Bandwidth becomes a challenge, for our management staff. You've got teams that are 8, 10, 20, 30 team big, and you can't be with each individual rep inside of a home coaching and training and developing. And we needed something to be able to supplement what we were already doing in person.
Yeah, that's great. And then for you and Eric, how's it been going so far with both Ciro and the Balto side in the contact center?
On my end, with Ciro, I think it's been a great relationship. They've been really great partners for us, and we've learned a lot from each other. There's obviously, when you're doing something that's across almost 100 markets and a few hundred design consultants and 40-50 managers, there's growing pains with that. And you have the testing groups, you got to bring this whole thing online with design consultants that maybe aren't up on the AI stuff and don't understand it. There's a little bit of fear. There's all that stuff that kind of happens. But I mean, I think they've been great because they had some experience with other companies that they were able to kind of share some of that with us and how other companies rolled it out successfully and unsuccessfully. And we've been able to learn from all of that. So I think it's been a great relationship.
That's awesome. That's really great.
Just to kind of piggyback on a few things Mike said there, there was similar to what Mike's talking about with being spread all over the country. The call center that I was directly managing, they're all remote, right? We all went remote because of COVID, and we were fortunate enough. Our company, we've grown tremendously over the last 4 or 5 years. And we ran out of space, so I couldn't even bring people back, right? So we all stayed remote. We've continued to perform well, but as we continue to grow, I continue to add more agents, right? So the benefit is it speeds up training a little bit, right? Because we give them their scripting and the process right on the screen. But from a QA perspective, we're not sitting in an office where I can go and listen and coach live. So I needed some additional insight to say what's really going on thousands of calls a day. There's no way to sit and listen to those calls. So Balto is starting to provide us some of that feedback and allows us to make some adjustments to better serve our customers. So it's been really, again, just scratching the surface on how we're using it, but it's been really beneficial so far. And it's really going to become a QA tool for us really moving forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to jump in a little bit to some of the more details of what you guys are seeing with both of them and what insights you're gathering. But, Martin, for you, I think Mike touched on a few of the challenges that they were seeing when you're working with customers or prospects like Great Day. What are the most common pains that you guys are hearing about? What are the challenges that companies are having that you guys are coming across and trying to help with these days?
Yeah, I think the big bucket when people are coming to us, it is just getting visibility into the field. As Mike said, right, even the best organizations don't have the staff to be there for every single appointment. And then some smaller organizations, they don't even have a ride-along process in place. So they actually have potentially zero field visibility. So I think when you break that down a little further, there's usually 3 main things people are trying to assess with this. One, are people following my process? And there's some standard ways we can kind of assess that. Once we've got people following the process, are they actually executing the process, right? Are they delivering that piece of the process the right way to deliver the right result with the customer? So those are kind of about getting the people that are maybe lagging behind to catch up. The other thing people are really curious about is for our top performers, what are they doing actually differently or potentially better than the standard process? So with a lot of our customers, yes, we're going to get those maybe stragglers up to speed, but it's about figuring out, holy crap, I didn't realize that our very best people are delivering maybe this same day closing technique this way. Let's actually capture that nugget of gold and let's disperse that across the team, maybe through a team meeting or some other formal training. So I'd say those are the 2 or 3 things that we see time and time again that people want to get with us and that we're able to deliver.
Yeah, that's incredible. I just imagine even for the sales reps, right? Like going into a house and, over and over again, maybe they're struggling, right? They're one that's just not doing great. They have no idea, right? They're like, I'm doing the thing. I'm following the process. But they have no idea, right? They're struggling and they don't know why. And that feedback loop is just non-existent. So that's really cool. I think back to like when I started in sales years ago, long time ago. And I thought I was killing it in my meetings, but the numbers were awful. So, there was nothing there. And my manager would ride along with me, once every week or so, maybe, and I'd get some feedback, and then I'd try to implement it. But guess what? I'm trying to implement it. I don't know if I am. So it's not, there's no constant feedback. So that's really awesome to hear that that's what you guys are doing. That's really cool.
Rob, the concept too is kind of like a sports concept, right? Like in sports, professional athletes, and even all the way down in high school and all that, they watch film, they review practices, they see the techniques that they're using and where they're successful and unsuccessful, and they can improve. There's nothing been like that for sales until Xero came around, and that's their ability to be able to watch themselves or listen to themselves say the things that they thought they said but maybe didn't say it the right way or didn't say it with the right tonality. Those are real key things. And then for the coaching side, it provides a great platform to be able to coach effectively.
Yeah. You can train till you're blue in the face in the office, whatever, but it comes down to just like executing. My 5-year-old daughter is starting like hockey right now, right? And she will only push with her left foot, right? She won't push with her right foot. And so we're on the ice and I'm like, push with your right. And she's always saying, I am. And then I took a video and I was like, look, you see this? Like, you're not. And that was it's the same thing as a sales rep. It's like, I am overcoming that objection. And then you go back and you review it and you listen to it and you're like, oh, I gave up pretty quick on that objection actually. So yeah, sports and sales always line up really well together.
Yeah.
For Great Day, how did you guys approach, coaching and insights and all of these things before, the days of Xero and Balto?
Well, I mean, on our end, my end, I think like anybody else, you're looking at data, you look at the numbers and you realize, oh boy, this person's 0 for 5 or this person's 0 for 10. And what's wrong with them? Well, you go out in the car and you ride with them and you see an appointment or two, and then you come back and you've got some stuff to work on out of those 1 or 2 appointments. Then you practice, you role play in the office, and then you send them back out, check the results, and maybe the results didn't hit. Oh boy, now I got to go back out. And so is this continual hamster wheel of ride along, coach in the office, go back out, ride along to check that they're doing it and check results. And what's unique about this is that it eliminates a lot of that. You get the discovery ride along by listening to the call after you see the data. And there's dashboards as well that we can also see, so that we don't go for 5 or 0 for 10. We can see a trend right away and pull that person out and coach. I think you'll always have a ride along as part of developing and training sales consultants, but this eliminates a lot of the extras that we would normally do otherwise.
Yeah. In the call center, Rob, before we had Balto and some of these other tools, it was kind of old school. You'd go and pull up a chair and sit next to your agent, and you could live listen, and I'm pointing to parts in their script and objections and rebuttals and say this and don't say that. That was a lot of what we did. And to Mike's point, you do your ride-alongs, or you sit next to an agent and you coach them a little bit and you send them back and see how they do, and you have to find time to come back. And again, with the amount of agents we have and we'll continue to add to our team, it's just not feasible to do that anymore. There's no way to do it.
In a lot of those cases for both of us, I'm sure too, you're not getting the authentic, real performance out of that person. It's some variation, whether it's over the top, really, really good, or it's like, I'm so nervous now that you're here, I can't do this right.
Yeah.
And we would hear that a lot. And in the office environment, if you're just role playing against air, you're not getting, it's not authentic either. So this real immersion of being in the field, but not being with them in the field is pretty cool.
Yeah. Who are you when no one's with you, right? Or watching, right?
Yep.
That's what we're trying to build, that consistency at all times.
Yeah. It's a great point too. Like, and it's hard to, as a leader, it's hard to discern that like nervousness piece too, right? Like, I get it. I totally understand. Your boss is here, you're whatever. But also it's like, you can't get outside your head of like, but is this how it always is? Like, is it really nervousness or not? So it puts a challenge for everybody to just know, like, is it nerves? Is it just, this is the way we're performing? And if so, like, holy cow, we've got some stuff to do. So it's a challenge across the board. Um, what have you guys noticed since implementing, Xero and Balto? Like, are there things that you found that maybe you were kind of surprised by, or stuff that you found super interesting once you implemented it that you were like, wow, had no idea?
It for I think in the field, and those that are in home improvement will probably laugh about this, but you hear when a sales rep is maybe going off the rails a little bit, oh, there's something going on personal, there's some emotional thing that's not related to the performance that they're actually doing in the home, and you get all that stuff, and it's not data driven. You have no real way to pinpoint it. You have no way sometimes to even help them. It eliminates that whole conversation because it's in black and white. It's right there. Like, you didn't do this, or you said this when you should have maybe said that. It just brings, I think it brings to light and eliminates those reasons that we use that design consultants or sales reps aren't performing, that aren't related to the process that they're trying to do in the home. Right? That for me, that's, it eliminates that whole part that you really can't measure. And then a lot of people, when they can't measure it, they'll go to that. They'll say, well, it's this. Well, no, it's really this. Listen to the recording. It's right there in black and white. It's not some emotional thing that they're going through.
Yeah. In the call center world, Rob, if there's any call center managers out there, you typically have a script, right? And you want your agents to follow the process and the script and hit on certain things. And, we've created these scripts and tweaked them over the years. And I've always managed with follow the process, but be yourself, But what I'm finding is some of my top performers, they're following the process fairly closely, but they have their own little twists on things, right? And in the past, I'd say, why would you say that? Why would you say that? Well, now I have all this data coming in, right? And I could say, oh my gosh, you're saying it almost on every call. Why don't we change our scripting, right? And give our agents a little more flexibility. And let's see if we can improve, those middle performers and move them up, right? So to me, just that insight was kind of that aha moment, right? Like, I have a script, but be yourself. What does that mean? Well, to my top performers, this is what it means. How do I roll that out to everybody else? And then one of the other pieces that and this is kind of an obvious statement, I think, for most people, but just taking call data and being able to segregate length of calls and what we call the win rate, right? So what is that magic number? Like, how long does my call need to get to before I have a much higher percentage win rate? Okay, so let's say I need, on average, if my call is 3.5 minutes, well, my win rate goes up to 90%. How do I get these other agents to extend those calls? Is it overcoming objections? Do they need more product training or coaching, right? What is there that's keeping them from getting to that benchmark, right? And then so I can get them above it, and then we increase our win rate or our set rate in my world. So those were the two things that I'm really taking from Balto to really try to help impact overall performance.
Yeah. I love both of those. That call time data point is one that we've seen quite a bit in the past.
Yeah.
And it allows for such an interesting conversation of like, look, you just got to get to 3 minutes, right? We've had customers that like have put out there, like, just get to 3 minutes, right? That's the goal. Because once we do that, we know the win rate goes up exponentially.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing probably like, in the home, right? Like, the longer you're there, the more likely that person is interested, right? They would have told you to leave. They would have said no at the 25-minute, 30-minute mark. I don't know how long home meetings usually go, but I assume that they're, 30 minutes to an hour. And
probably a little bit longer, but yeah,
Okay.
you're right. It also takes that entire call. Like it would be unrealistic for there's 235 sales reps in my company right now. It would be unrealistic for me to hear a 2-hour appointment from every one of them that run 2 times a day. We're not listening to thousands of hours of data. We're going in and looking quickly at a graph and showing us where some of the key parts are that they're missing, then going into that and listening to a 1-minute snippet or a 2-minute snippet of a call, not this whole entire process. So it allows us, I think, to sharpen our focus and have more of a sniper-like approach when it comes to individuals. And it allows us to train individually as well. Because not all of them are the same. They're not all doing it the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's spot on, Mike. Same thing in our world with Balto, right? We have our checklist, and we could see which agents are doing what, and then we could find the variations and see, these agents are using variations of the script, but their win rate is up here, right? But these agents, they're following the script, but their win rate is low. Why is that? Let's find where they're losing the lead, right? So let's dive into the dashboards and the data, and we're helping not only fine tune our script overall, but really help agent performance by diving in, like you said, Mike.
And the order too, it matters. Like, does the process that you're communicating with the customer, does that make logical sense? And are things out of order or out of place that then derail the appointment set or the meeting from turning into a sale? And both tools kind of allow us to do that.
Exactly. And then from a quality perspective, in the same context there, we're always looking, how do we win more? How do we win more? How do we win more? But I also want to know, do I have agents setting really bad appointments that shouldn't be set? How do I keep my quality up, right? What challenges are we running into with a certain agent, right? They're just throwing anything on the wall because they need to get their numbers. Well, I don't want that, right? I want real quality leads. So using it from the opposite side, yeah, we're winning, but what's the quality and how do we address that?
Yeah. That piece is always such a balance, right?
Yeah.
You can see that set rate go way up, but then ultimately the sit rate stays the same or actually decreases, right? Because now people are just pushing a little too hard for the appointment, and maybe they're not clarifying everything. Both decision makers are going to be there and all of the pieces they need to. And now you're setting up, the person to go in the home for, a cancellation or, a meeting that ultimately is never going to close because it can't.
Yep.
So, I really like that piece too.
Yeah.
Martin, for you, I know as far as Mike and Eric, you guys have had a lot of really great ways of like using the data to make these decisions faster. But, Martin, what else are you guys seeing from your other customers of like how they're using this data to make decisions and make changes faster?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we've seen recently is actually adjusting your offering to the marketplace based on these specific moments you're seeing in these customer interactions. So a few examples of things: tracking competitors in local markets, right? Like, how are our offerings going up against these? How often are these competitors coming up? Things, of course, like pricing in those situations. And so what we're finding is, ultimately a change to the process or a change to our offering is hopefully a data-driven hypothesis, but a hypothesis. And so once we actually get that out in the field, being able to, some executives are maybe looking through 20 snippets of all the appointments that had that specific important moment come up for that day, and really digesting what's the market, like how's the market kind of combating with this, as opposed to just what we think. At least as like, especially a sales leader myself on the software side, right? We put a new piece of product into the market. Historically, it was we'd build it based on whoever shouted the loudest about what they wanted built, and then we would hope that it worked or didn't work. Now we're on our side being a lot more data driven with that as well, just because we can get down to those specific moments.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then on top of that, like what are you guys hearing in terms of like AI's ability to unearth actionable insights from sales conversations? Like, what are your customers saying about that?
Yeah. Well, I guess to one of the things we're working on with Great Day right now, and sort of beyond coaching, is because like you think about this transcript that we have right from the field. yes, you can absolutely change a rep's behavior based on this, but there's all this other data that you can use to drive your business. So since Great Day has so many different brands, one of the things we found was cross sell. Right, you're there for a patio appointment. The homeowner is literally saying, "Hey, can you measure my windows?" But maybe that team doesn't have the wherewithal to do that. What we're doing is we're actually ranking some of these conversations for cross sell ability or rehash ability. And then, I don't know if we're working with you specifically yet, Eric, but we're sending these lists to the call center ranked 5 through 1 and making sure we get on those fives, those ones that are very high propensity to rehash or very high propensity to cross sell. So for Great Day and then for some of our other customers, it's basically recording is more or less leading to free leads that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So just another way to kind of get this into the process and drive more outcomes.
That's awesome. The upsell cross sell piece is really cool. I'm sure that's probably been super meaningful for your team, Mike. Like as you're getting into that, that seems like a really impactful piece.
It is. Marketing is expensive, as everybody here probably knows, and it's not going down anytime soon. So the ability to be able to maximize the amount of spend and that appointment to its fullest, yes, it's huge. And for companies that offer different product offerings or different services, it could be, your customers for life, and that's kind of the holy grail to this thing. If it can be pulled off, you want to keep that customer, maintain them, and nurture them as long as they own their home.
Yeah. Eric, what sort of focus do you guys have on upsells and cross sells? Is that a piece of the conversation or not so much on the phone?
Not so much on the phone. We've touched on it with our agents. If they run into a scenario where, we get a lead that came through us, they wanted a patio enclosure or a sunroom, and we start talking to them, and it's something out of our realm entirely, but maybe one of our other brands can do it. We'll say, hey, we have a sister brand, or this brand might be able to help you. Are you okay if I send them your information? But we're not quite ready present day to do the cross-selling on the phones. It is a future state within the next probably 12 to 18 months realistically. Just high level with part of the data and part of the big picture. We have 7 different call centers right now, all handling different brands. The goal is to keep all the people, but streamline and cross train. And it doesn't matter which brand the customer is calling in for. We have agents that could handle all brands at all times. And that's where I think the value of the cross selling is really going to come into play for us.
Yeah. That makes that conversation way more detailed and important, right? If you're representing 7 different brands, someone calls in, you've got an opportunity to set an appointment for 7 different products, 7 different things. And
Exactly.
Yeah, that'll be a really great experience, I think, for the customers too.
Yeah.
Being able to do everything in one spot. So that's awesome.
Yeah. To Mike's point, we want to be that kind of one-stop shop and create these customers for life. We don't care which brand you use, let's make sure we take care of you, and let's make sure our agents, right, using all these tools, they have to understand the product offerings and the nuances between the brands, right? Because we're the expert, we're the first point of contact, right? So tying it back to this conversation, Balto, right, and dynamic prompts and things of that nature, that's where that's really going to benefit us when we start really joining our call center agents, if you will.
Yeah.
With Rob, with both Balto and Xero, in a company, small or large, when you change a process, you add something to it, you implement something, there's a ramp up period. And the bigger you are, the bigger that period takes before it, gets implemented, gets executed, and you feel comfortable that it's working in your company all the time. Using these 2 tools eliminates most of that ramp up, because you can set it, you can execute on a plan, put this new process in place, and immediately the next day hear if it's working and hear who's using it and how frequently they're using it. And if they're stumbling over things, you get instant feedback on these changes, which allows you now to take to move the big ship much quicker.
Yep.
Yeah. That's something that we hear a lot too. And I think like process changes in the past have always, like you said, they take time. No matter how big or small you are, it's not easy to do it,
Mhm.
and it sounds like with the two tools you guys have, like process changes can just be that much faster, right? And that's important, right? Because how many appointments are missed, how many deals are lost because that process was, you know, rolling out slowly.
Yep.
So yeah, that's huge. Um, what for you guys at Great Day, like what has been the impact since you guys have been using AI? Like what have you guys noticed most, either, on the in person or in the contact center from using AI?
I'll just, I guess I'll say consistency, right, amongst our agents, understanding the process and the consistency and following the checklist, um, and customer experience, right? Consistency there too. So any customer that calls in, doesn't matter if it's their first time or they're calling us 3 years later now, like the consistency that they know what they're going to get. We know what we're going to provide them. And it builds confidence in that kind of trust, credibility, rapport mindset that we have. So that, to me, that's probably the biggest one is the consistency at all angles with that customer experience.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. The customer experience part is now able to be more consistent across the board. So we're delivering on the promises that we're making. And I also think the employee experience, our associate experience, is greater too, because now they have this tool that they didn't have before, that they're able to help coach themselves. Because sometimes you just don't know what the problem is, and maybe your coach doesn't even know what the problem is, and so these tools allow our employees to like self-train, self-coach better, and I think it engages them more. We've got a higher employee engagement because of these tools that we're using, because those results end up being positive at the end of the day. They see the positive results in listening to themselves and listening to their peers, and then receiving coaching. And there's cool things in Xero where they can bookmark a specific section and send it to their coach and say, hey, I had trouble here. I know I did, and I might have missed it here. Help me. What do you hear? What do you see? And they're able to do that amongst their peers too. I just think it makes the team stickier. It really does.
Yeah. When you were talking, I was actually going to ask those exact questions of like sharing it with their peers, sharing it with their coach. Like that's really cool stuff that, I like the employee engagement piece that you said. Um, People that lean into that, they're probably becoming, if they weren't already, some of the more successful people because they're taking the tool and they're running with it, and they're learning from peers, they're learning from their coaches. So that's awesome.
And their peers can see the results. They see it in the data, but they can also see the habits of what a successful design consultant sales rep does. Like, okay, how much do you listen to Xero? How much do you listen to other people's recordings? How much are you recording? They get to see like an example of excellence, and if I mirror that and work really hard, I can probably get to that same place too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's like, how often do you see salespeople that are like, what's this person doing? They're crushing it. What are they doing? And sometimes that salesperson that is crushing it, they can't really articulate exactly what it is they're doing. They just do it. That's what I do.
Right.
So the fact that like it also eliminates that piece for the other sales folks is like, oh, I don't have to wonder why they're so successful. Now I see it,
Mm-hmm.
and now I can replicate that. That's really cool. I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're getting close here. I think we got about 10 minutes left. You know, Martin, I've got like one last question that we'll ask to the group really, but anything in particular that you want to discuss, or maybe a question that you wanted to throw out?
I honestly think we covered a lot of the key points, right? It's great to hear, Mike, some of the good feedback, and then yeah, Eric, great to hear that that Balto's been successful thus far. So nothing major for me.
Yeah, this is a this is a fun one, and I'm curious to see where everybody goes with it, how far down the conspiracy rabbit holes we can go. But you know, where do we see AI evolving in sales over the next few years? And what should companies be preparing for now?
Well, from my standpoint, AI is everywhere now. It's not. I mean, and maybe in home improvement, it's been a little slow to get there, but it's there. I think companies need to embrace it, because there's a ton of good that can come out of it. And what's unique about this tool is that if you think about it, if you dream about like, wow, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could see this, the speed in which that can happen now isn't like impossible. It's not. You can make a phone call and send a quick message to the folks at Cyril, and they'll take that crazy idea and say, oh yeah, we can do that. We got to, so that I think that it is a fast evolving place, and you've got to be constantly on the forefront of learning about how it can be used, and not be dismissive of an idea like, I don't think it can do that. Well, it probably can. It needs to be put in the hands of people that know how to do it. And in terms of the future for sales, I believe that it's going to continue to allow both the coach, the manager, and that design consultant or sales rep get better at their job and yield better results because of it. And there's the things like the customer for life, and looking at these cross-selling opportunities and rehash opportunities. Those are huge.
Yeah. No robots in homes. You're not going down that.
No, I still think the business is going to be done person to person. But I do think, prompts and things like that as they're in there, and those are going to be evolving, and how people react to having a real life conversation and then a prompt that comes up saying, hey, say this or do this. It's coming. It's going to be there. It's like, how do we teach the people how to do this and how to use that tool?
Yeah. And use it well, make it natural. That's,
Yep.
the in-person guidance, if you will, like what we do in the contact center is always an interesting one. Maybe if like the glasses or the, whatever the Apple ski looking ones are, maybe if they ever get good enough, it'll be all right. But till then, I think it's a bit of a challenge,
It is.
For sure.
On the robot point, obviously a joke. I think what's interesting is, part of the reason organizations it's great that they're starting with this now is some of the automation that's going to help empower the sales rep. So it's definitely not going to get rid of them. But, if you're an organization that's still requiring people to manually fill in the CRM in 5 years, well, no one's going to want to work for your company, because the companies that have this infrastructure in place, everything's going to be filled in. They're just going to quickly review it to confirm that it's right. Additionally, some of the things we're hopefully going to bring to market relatively soon. Imagine, in this customer for life scenario, the rep's driving up to the house 20 minutes before the appointment. They actually get a call on their cell phone from like basically a bot that's saying, we've had 4 appointments with this customer previously. Here are the things we talked about. Here's their dog's name, like blah, 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 blah. Where basically now they're coming into this appointment just absolutely dialed in to create a great customer experience. So there's going to be a ton of cool things, as Mike said, like, we can kind of dream this up and then prompt it and it's good. But the sooner you can start collecting this data, the better, because there's going to be even cooler things you can do with it in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road.
Yeah, Martin, that's every piece of that is so incredible. Like in the contact center, there's always that after call work that's talked about, right? Like that's a metric. But you kind of, I've been in the contact center for so long now that I forget about like what it was like to, go sell a deal in the field and then have to like, go back to your car or whatever and fill out the CRM and, scan in documents or whatever you have to do to like finalize everything. But that's a big part of the day. So, I don't know how the average amount of time it would take a field sales rep to do that, but that's another, 10, 15, 20 minutes out of their day where they could already be on their way to their next appointment and closing another deal. So yeah, that's really cool. I agree. I think we refer to it as self-driving here a little bit, where it's, everything is getting done for the agent. It's filling it in. It's even getting the numbers and everything calculated and completed for them. And yeah, I love the phone call idea too. Really giving them a rundown of like quick rapport, right? Here's how you're going to build quick rapport. That's really awesome. I love that.
The feedback after, as he said that too, is I can envision a place where after the meeting is done, you get in your car like everybody does, and you either are really happy because you won, or you're like, ah, crap, I didn't make that. You get a nice friendly call from some AI bot that sounds awesome on the phone and very personal, and says, don't worry, it's okay. Here's some areas that you had that you could have, and that, like, right there in that moment where it's still fresh and a little raw. Those are things that, it gets, I think the employee, again, going back to the employee engagement and just how effective it can be, it can put them right back in a good headspace to go run that next appointment. Okay. I learned some stuff from this. Now I can go to the next one feeling pumped up.
Yeah. Even the design aspect of it, which this might already be a thing that's out there and that are getting used, but it can eliminate the need for them to really get too creative on anything design related. It's like, take the picture, let AI do its thing. It's like, here's the best recommendation of what we think it should look like. What do you think, customer? Right? You don't have to, get too crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's how you quote this so that you don't make any mistakes. Measure here, take this photograph. There's, you don't have to be a construction expert to do this anymore. There's a lot of tools out there that'll help assist.
Yeah. It's amazing. Eric, what about you? What are your thoughts on where AI is going to go?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to go there, but I think similar to what Mike and Martin are talking about is just that employee experience. And I could really see, I'm on the phone with a customer, I have their name and address, right? And they're trying to explain the project they want to do. Well, it'd be kind of cool to see AI kind of give a street view of the house, right? And start putting together, listening to what that customer is saying, so my agents can truly understand at a high level the scope of the project, right? And be able to envision that and make a decision. Can we help them or not? Right? Because I think there's a lot of value there in to be honest, most of my call center agents, they're not at a point yet to where they've experienced home improvement projects themselves, right? It's a little younger demographic. So they're not, you talk about sunrooms and foundation work, and they're like, what does all of that mean, right? So how do we use that, give them some visuals, and help them on every call by providing, again, the visuals and helping guide them through some of these calls to say, hey, maybe ask this question, right? Qualify it with this question. I think that's where, and you guys are right, you're already kind of down that path from a Balto perspective, but just some of these add-ons and additional features, I see that being really impactful in my world. Terminology, right? Different customers use different terminology for different projects versus what we talk about internally with our terminology. How do we start using AI to map some of those to help the agent understand a little bit better what the customer is wanting to do, and then determine if we could help them? So kind of knee-jerk reaction there, Rob, but that's kind of where I can envision this thing going over the next couple of years.
No, that's fantastic. Like my mind started racing as you were talking about, like, querying different things, right? Like you brought up like the street view, but like in my head, I'm imagining like it goes out and it queries like, the year the home was built, and does that have an impact on what the job might be, right?
Yeah.
Should they ask a question because of that? The municipality that it's in, right? Does that change permitting, right? So ask a question about the, all of those like crawlers that could go out there and like really scrub and find all the information they need. That's incredible. So my take is like nowhere near as cool as any of the ones that you guys said. But I think the other piece is that, like, I think we're going to see AI get to a point where it handles the easy stuff, so that, by the time it makes it even to your team, Eric, it's every conversation they're having is, a meaningful conversation for them. They're not caught up in the basics. The basics are handled already. They're now into the finer details, and it allows for them to have a much better experience. They're having in-depth conversations every time they pick up the phone. They know that this person has been at least on the lowest level or mid-level qualified. Now it's just on them to wrap it up and finalize the appointment and everything. And I think that'll go really well for like employee morale and stuff too. Make sure that they're doing stuff that's really fulfilling for them. So
Yeah.
your guys' takes are way better. That was awesome. But I think we're at time. I don't think we have any outstanding questions or anything. But, Mike, Eric, Martin, this was a blast. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. And for anybody that's on here, if you want to reach out to Martin or myself, by all means, please do. My email's just rob@balto.ai. It's pretty easy. Martin, I don't think I have yours offhand.
Martin@zero.ai. So
there we go.
Very easy.
Yeah. And, Mike and Eric, as always, thank you so much. And we appreciate you guys doing business with both of us. And thanks, everybody, for joining today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Have a great
everybody.
day.